Hello there, many thanks for still staying with us on TVC News at 1. We now start of the news at this hour from the business desk with the latest inflation report for the month of July this year. Nigeria's headline inflation rate has hit a new 17-year all-time high, surging to 19.64% from the 18.6% earlier recorded in the month of June this year. On a month-on-month basis, the headline inflation rate in July this year was 1.817%. And the increases were recorded in all classification of individual consumption by purpose divisions that yielded the headline index. Now, on a year-on-year basis, the month of July this year, the urban inflation rate was pegged at 20.09%, and this was about 2.08% higher compared to the 18.01% recorded in July last year. Rural inflation rate in July this year as well was 19.22% on a year-on-year basis, and this was 2.47% higher compared to the 16.75% recorded in July last year. Food inflation rate in July this year was also at 22.02% on a year-on-year basis, which was 0.99% higher compared to the rate in July last year, which was also pegged at 21.03%. Now, the rise in food inflation was caused by increases in prices of bread and other cereals, food products such as potatoes, yam and other tubers, meat, fish, oil and fat. Now, on a month-to-month basis, the food inflation rate in July was 2.04%, and this was about 0.01% insignificant decline compared to the rate recorded in June this year, which was about 2.05%. Now, this decline is attributed to a reduction in the prices of some food items like tubers, maize, gari, as well as vegetables. And now in this next report, the federal government, in a fresh move early on Sunday, announced that it is carrying out a study to identify suitable gas flare sites for auction, and it would also issue flare sites to technically competent companies through a competitive bid process. It says a 12-member flare gas commercialization program team has been tasked with the responsibility of driving the process as well as coordinating the gas flare commercialization program towards its initiative to end gas flaring by the year 2025. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Gbenga Komolafe, who disclosed this in a statement assigned, stated that monetizing gas resources is a positive step towards guaranteeing energy security, especially in the global energy transition period. And in financial-related matters, Nigeria's external reserves fell by $337 million in the first 2 weeks of this month, maintaining its declining trend since the middle of last month. Now, data from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that the external reserves fell to $38.882 billion just last week Thursday from $39.219 billion at the end of July this year. This indicates that the external reserves has lost so far about $563 million since July the 18th, when it commenced the latest downward trend. Now, prior to last month on the 18th, the external reserves had maintained a 40 days upward trend, rising by $976 million to hit $39.445 billion from the $38.421 billion which was recorded on the 6th of June, buoyed by rise in the price of crude oil, which also accounts for over 80% of Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings. And now moving on to the maritime sector, the Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, says that Nigeria will become a major maritime hub in Africa as Lekki Deep Sea Port gets set to commence operations. The minister made the assertion during a tour of port facilities in Lagos, where he threatens to terminate the rail contract awarded the China civil engineer constructing company, that's the CCECC, over the firm's failure to provide 85% counterpart fund for the project. TVC News correspondent Ifunaize reports.
Operation of these ports will commence in September, 1 month from now.
The Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, giving a definitive response to queries about when the Lekki Deep Sea Port will commence operations. The minister, together with top officials of the Transportation Ministry and heads of the several maritime agencies, did his first official tour of port facilities in Lagos, including the Lekki Deep Sea Port, which he says will become a major game changer in Nigeria's port operations.
This, like you know, should be the pride of all Nigerians. The first deep sea port in West Africa. It will take the largest ships in the world, 16.5 meters deep, create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Everything you want in a port is here.
Speaking about the failure of the China Civil Engineer Construction Company to provide 85% counterpart fund being part of the contract agreement for the rail project 2 years after, he threatens sanctions.
I gave them a deadline. My deadline is, I think, 30th of October. 30th of October this year. If I don't get that money on ground, I know what I'd advise Mr. President to do.
How much are we looking at?
85% of the cost of the projects. There are 2 projects involved, Kano Kaduna and the Eastern Line Maiduguri Port Harcourt.
Responding to questions on the implication of the Lekki Deep Sea Port operations on existing seaports in the country, the managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Mohammed Bello Koko, says it will drive competition.
Those ports will still be viable naturally, but what we have just done is to create alternative for importers and exporters where they decide to do business. So it's for the operators of those ports to also up their game, improve the speed at which they process cargo, whether it's in terms of clearance and so on and so forth. Feasibility studies have shown that these ports will still be viable.
There are high expectations that imports and export trade among other maritime businesses will increase substantially as government consents to the construction of more deep sea ports across the country. Ifunanya Eze, TVC News, Lagos.
And moving on now to the international front, Asian shares were mixed today after China's central bank trimmed key lending rates as a raft of economic data missed forecasts and underlined the need for more stimulus to support the world's second largest economy. The cut in rates helped cushion the blow a little and left China's blue chips steady, while the yuan and bond yield slipped. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was flat, having bounced 0.9% just last week. Now, Japan's Nikkei rose 1.1% as data showed the economy grew at an annualized 2.2% rate in the second quarter of this year, just a touch under estimates. Euro Stock 50 futures added 0.4%, and London's FTSE futures also rose 0.5%. The S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures were both down around 0.2% after last week's gains. Now, however, the S&P 500 index is almost 17% above its mid-June lows and only 11% from an all-time high amid bets the worst of inflation is past, at least in the United States. And wrapping up business news at this hour, oil prices on the international market dropped today for a second session as weak China data triggered concerns about demand at the world's largest crude importer, while the head of the world's top exporter, Saudi Aramco, says it is ready to ramp up output. US West Texas Intermediate crude recorded a price dip of 1.37% to hit $90.83 per barrel. Brent crude now sells at about $96.88 per barrel, registering a downward price margin of 1.29%. Bonolite's trade-in value is still static at $118.10 per barrel, recording a price drop of 3.25%. And for the OPEC basket, crude oil dealers offer $103.20 per barrel, with a price surge of 1.89%.